Hello, everybody. Dr. Chris Martin here, back with you. I know you missed me. I missed you. Hey, guess what? Common knowledge is breaking out all over the place. This is incredible. Look what just came out in the last couple of days. Can I even say this here on YouTube? If you're watching this on YouTube, I hope so. The Australian government's TGA, Therapeutic Goods Administration. Look what they did here. Look at this. Removal of prescribing restrictions on ivermectin. Dwizabin 2. For those of you who've been following me for a while. This comes out May 3rd. This is really interesting. So what happened was they had put a prescribing ban. The TGA had put a prescribing ban on ivermectin for off-label use. It was unprecedented. They've never done that before. Fully 30-40% of all medicine use is off-label. They prescribe off-label all the time. Just in this one case, they decided to remove that because this was such a danger. As you know, if you saw my report on it, this thing here, ivermectin, is one of the safest drugs out there that you could possibly study. Way safer than Tylenol, way safer than aspirin. It's a very, very safe compound. So it's still a little bit of a mystery as to exactly what the rationale was. Who were they saving and from what? By putting this ban on, but put the ban on they did. In my estimation, the TGA has blood on its hands for this. And as well, so do other places. We could see here, the impact of that, which was that Australia's excess mortality rate has now been reported to be at levels not seen since World War II. Highest excess mortality rates in over 80 years. You have to go to a major world war to find an equivalent rate of mortality in Australia. And of course, it's not just Australia, New Zealand. Same story, except theirs is the biggest increase in registered deaths in 100 years. This comes to us in February of 2023. So that's the story. And how many deaths would we ascribe to the fact that they failed to promote early treatments, failed to properly recognize how to go about dealing with a respiratory virus that was not all that novel, as it turns out? I would peg that at about that many unnecessary deaths. So this is bad. This is really horrifying. There needs to be a full inquiry into this, and people need to be held accountable. We can decide and argue only over how accountable. We may differ on that, but this wasn't the fog of war, people just making some sloppy decisions and oops, we know better now. No, we had plenty of data at the time. You know me, I've been on this since the beginning. It's pretty obvious what's going on here. So at any rate, I just want to talk to you then about what this actually means and what we could do and the lessons that we want to draw from this. So the lessons are pretty clear about this whole thing here. What we want to understand is that, if we look at this, for instance, we discover that vitamin D levels per country versus COVID-19 mortality normalized to per 1 million of population. You see here a very clear and straight line that goes like this. So that says that somewhere around between 70 and 80 nanomoles per liter, that number goes to 0. Not just a little lower, 0. And it's a lot higher up here if you're down here at 40 nanomoles. And this chart, unfortunately, didn't go further because there are people out there. This is 30 is considered insufficient. 20, there's plenty of studies out there that show people with vitamin D in the 20 nanomole per liter range. No bueno. Sometimes people are even lower than that. This is where all the people who died and who were in the ICU were heavily concentrated, was way down to the left side of that chart, way over there, okay? So this is certainly something that we've known about a long time. And again, we would ask, where was the TGA in promoting vitamin D? Where was the FDA? Where was the NIH? Where was the CDC? Where was the EMA? All of them. They were nowhere in that story. Nowhere, which is kind of bizarre. Now, for some good news in this, which is a little late and long past due and maybe a day late and a dollar short, the United States is finally dropping its vaccine requirement for non-U.S. citizens coming back in by air into the United States. So federal workers also are now excluded from this. So the vaccine requirements will end May 11th, when the Biden administration is officially declaring an end to the public health emergency. In April, Congress passed and the president signed an end to the national and public health emergencies related to the pandemic, effective immediately. Well, by immediately, they mean May 11th. So the White House noted that 98% of federal employees received at least one dose of the vaccine or had a pending or approved exception. Those of you who have the pending exceptions, looks like you won and you waited them out on this particular one. So finally, this is no longer completely, I mean, it was insane to have that restriction still in place, given everything we know about the loss of effectiveness of these vaccines, particularly against the most recent Omicron strains, on and on and on, right? So this was slow, painfully slow policy, just like watching the TGA painfully slowly come around to the idea of allowing one of the safest medications ever devised and one of the most useful medications ever devised to be used again in, like, as we've used medicine for centuries, if not that millennia, at the doctor's discretion. So at any rate, that's the story I have for you here today. Remember, if you want to, please hit like or subscribe. That helps this channel grow. And secondarily, if you want to become a subscriber to peakprosperity.com and find out what I'm thinking on a daily basis, come on by. This is a time when you need all the information advantage you can get. And maybe you need to save some time. That's something I do because I'm constantly thinking about this stuff for you. Remember, it didn't have to be this way. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.